Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We are your multi-award winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast. We are back, just about, on the back of Spurs drawing 1-1 at home to Fulham. And as TJ politely reminded us off it, I think we've got something around 11 games in 35, 38 games. So boys, girls, listeners, viewers, lovers, haters, fill your boots. We're here for all of them. God help us. Joining us on the couch. And can I just say thank you so much to all the wonderful fans of our beloved football club. That reminded me at full time. Rick, what time is therapy? When can we find you? When can we see you? We're here. Hello, everybody. It's that time of the week again, isn't it? It is that time of the week again. If you are with us for the first time, you can find us on iTunes. We're on Spotify. We're across all major audio platforms. We're, of course, on X. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook too. I'm joined by great, fabulous returning guest, the Last Word on Spurs, in the wonderful TJ Ramini. God, I see many sad to be. Do we need a TJ Ramini any given Sunday speech to steer us through what's to come? We're joined by, kind of brilliant YouTubers out there. The wonderful Jonny. Hamme returns to the show. He does tell it like it is. And my God, many will need us to be telling it as it is at the moment. And we're joined by the brilliant Mitch Fretton on this Last Word on Spurs as we dissect, break down, react to that performance display against Fulham in the Premier League. And I must just say at the very, very top of the show, really important that we do stress this. Look, we are aware, and of course, we know overall Spurs have got 6 starters, 8 overall missing players in Guillermo Vicario, Mickey van der Ven, Christian Romero, Dominic Solanke, Wilson Odobert, Mikey Moore, Richarlison, and Rodrigo Bentancur suspended. However, want to say at the very, very top of this show, that should not stop, detract, from you being able to ask the questions you want to ask about the football club. I think that's really important that we put it out there because many will allude to the fact that we are missing players. And yes, we are missing players. We're missing the spine of this side. There's no doubt about that. But you can most certainly still have an opinion, have a reaction to what you're seeing from a Spurs team, performance-wise, display-wise, from the 11 that start the game to the 11 that finish the game, to obviously your thoughts on Ange Postecoglou. That's why we're here. There wouldn't be a show if you're not allowed to dissect, debate, all those things. And the thing about Last One on Spurs is there's no point doing a show like this if you're not allowed to have an opinion on all those things. So don't feel that you are not allowed to speak or not allowed to have an opinion on all things Tottenham. That is what we're here for. And for our sins, that is why, again, I want to make the point, not in an arrogant way, I think we are the best Spurs podcast out there because we don't let things rest. All we do is discuss on this show. And again, that's what leads us to becoming what we've become in the last 7-8 years. I think it's all sent us around the bend and crazy. I'm going to open, if I can, with the great TJ Ramini. Look, I made that point, TJ, at the top of this show. And look, you've been here, bless you, for a very long time with us. We are acutely aware we're missing 6 starters, 8 overall in Vicario, Van der Ven, Romero, Solanke, Odobert, Moore, Richarlison, Bentancur. Yes, I've gone through them again. But that game was a real grind for Spurs. And they really struggled to find their best form against Fulham. Granted, you're going to say to me, look, if you've got 6 to 8 of the players out that you need in the squad, that's fair. But the biggest compliment I can pay to Fulham is that I thought they were really unlucky not to walk away with all 3 points. I think where 1-1 is probably maybe a fair result overall, given the nature of chances. But it's just frustrating, again, that we haven't kicked on after such a great display against Manchester City. I mean, what do you make, TJ, overall of that display, that performance? And does it allude back to the players missing? Or is it deeper than that for you?
Excellent questions, Rick. I think we're probably all feeling the same. It's great to be back on the show, to be honest, man. It's lovely to see Mitch. I haven't seen you in ages, mate. Jonny, great to be back on here with you as well, brother. Tough day for Spurs fans today, man. Because this lack of consistency, it's unbelievably frustrating, isn't it? You never know who you're going to get. You never know if you're going to, walk into the stadium and there's this purring Rolls Royce sitting there, or there's this sort of, sputtering 3-wheeler, like, something out of Only Fools and Horses, but with less, or perhaps somebody would argue more, comedic value. I mean, listen, it would be remiss of me, and I think any of us, to not be reminded that we do have key injuries at the moment. For me, however, it's not so much those players that are missing. I think it's the broader effect that has had on the squad in general. And I'm going to keep quite brief, actually, with this opening, because, of course, we're going to talk a lot more about this throughout the episode. But for me, what this really has exposed today, and we've illustrated throughout the season, is just how thin this squad is. We're such a fragile football team. And this talk of, when are we going to go on and challenge for the league? My goodness, anybody who knows me, anyone who's even seen me on the show or, knows me in my personal life or whatever, I'm an extremely positive person. And I'm not one of those Tottenham fans that, whenever you ask me for a prediction, Rick, no matter who we're going to play, even if we're going to play Madrid at the Bernabeu, I'm always going to say, well, Tottenham's going to win 2-0. I'm just that guy. And I believe it as well, because on our day, we can beat, and we have proven that we can beat the very best in the world. However, we're so far away from having the kind of rigidity and stability that one needs to challenge for the Premier League title. I mean, look what Liverpool just did again today. They are proving that a squad, a deep, talented squad of experienced players who've won it all and done it all, and youngsters that have come through and been, given real confidence and a real run of games. Look at Fraser Forster in 2 games, just kind of getting a run. I thought Ben Davies and Dragozin were excellent again today, proving that give players a run of games and they can really grow and really develop. But our squad, I'm so sorry to say this, being a Tottenham positive, optimistic type of fan, we're so far away, guys. We just are. The squad is so thin, and we lose 4 or 5 players, and my goodness, we have our pants pulled down. And that's what happened to us today, sadly. Great to be back on the show. I'll let the other lads jump in and I'm sure provide us with some well-needed pearls of wisdom.
TJ, thank you so much to start us off. Normally I'm saying to TJ, normally he starts off on a positive. I mean, I've never known TJ in the
Can't do it today, mate. Sorry.
I know, mate. I know. We love you. We do. Jonny, look, you were there as well, along with me. Some big boos at the end there. Spurs not at their best. Didn't really do enough to win. Look, we did really miss to TJ's qualifying point there. The likes of Solanke, Kulusevski. I think we could have maybe asked more questions against 10 men. I think the biggest thing for me that I was there at the stadium feeling was that even when Fulham went down to 10, and look, it's maybe some fans may not agree with me saying this, it's just a feeling I got. I'm interested to see if you had the same feeling, that there was not that kind of feeling at that end, then those final 4 or 5 minutes, that we truly believed in that stadium we was going to win the game. And that's been quite a common, I would say, feeling in the last kind of 5.5, 6 months of this season. Again, look, many will know out there, I've got a young family, beautiful children, lovely wife, and I don't get the chance to go as much as I want to Spurs. Being there today, that was probably the atmosphere was so flat today. I mean, so flat. I mean, Jonny, you go home and away, bless you, week in, week out. So I'd be intrigued to get your take on that. We looked really leggy after Thursday. Fulham were pretty good, and they'll probably be disappointed not to have taken more advantage of Tottenham, who had really the spine of their team out for this one. I mean, Jay, how do you reflect on that performance, that result? Because I know you're one in never short of words. Give me a flavour as to what you make of that at the moment, that performance.
Well, first of all, hail the tree, because the tree stood up like a solid oak today, and he made 3 fantastic saves. Let's the credit where credit's due. And I am a little worried, though, because I think in one of the collisions with Jimenez, he must have got concussion, because when interviewed after the game, he said he thought we played very well. So maybe the doctor should give him a quick examination afterwards just to check everything's okay. Look, there was something really wrong about everything today. The goal, when Johnson scored that goal, it was the celebration was so flat. It was as if there was some sort of an acknowledgement that we're 1-0 up, but we don't deserve it. There was absolutely no belief that we deserved to go on and win the game. And what was even more alarming was that when they scored the goal, I did a little video looking at the reaction. The heads went down. There wasn't one person on that pitch, whether it be Maddison, Son, or anyone, who turned around and fired them up and said, come on, guys, let's go again. The lip quivered, the heads went down, and I knew then that the game was up. And, you know, I think to myself, look, it's 1-1. You've been in the lead. We're only level. There's the whole game to play. And then I looked at Ange. I saw Silva at the break, you know, going mad at his players. You know, they've just equalised and he's going mad. And Ange is just parading up and down, you know, looking at the floor. And I was waiting. I was waiting for something and it just never came. It never came from the players. And I don't think anyone in that stadium, I certainly didn't believe in that team that they were going to go on and, you know, and win. I really didn't. And when you look at the games that we've had recently, you know, we've had Leicester, Brighton, Palace, Ipswich and Fulham. I'll read that out again. Leicester, Brighton, Palace, Ipswich and Fulham. Out 15 points, we've taken 2. Now, we can talk about the players that are missing today, and rightly so. But come on, this is a wider problem. This is a problem that's been going on quite a while. We're now coming into a period of the season where we're going to be severely challenged, not just by the intensity and the amount of fixtures, but also the quality of the opposition. We can't keep using excuses that we're coming up with. You know, it's part of the process. It's part of the development. I understand that. You know, that is for, you know, we've had that for the first, well, we're now 17 months in, would you say? Yeah, I understand that. You know, I don't expect us to, you know, be uprooting trees, but I hope to see the seeds of development and progress. And I see more regression than progression. And that's seriously worrying. It really is. And I think, you know, some of the dialogue that's coming from Ange over the last few weeks has been a bit difficult to swallow. You know, forget about the entertainment, because were you not entertained? No, not today. I wasn't. No. You know, the excuse of, well, we had kids on the bench on Thursday. Well, yes, you had kids on the bench, but you brought on Madison Bissouma and Timo Werner. So, you know, you can't have this excuse. I'm looking for positivity. I'm looking for something to grab hold of. And quite honestly, with these 2 games coming up with Bournemouth and Chelsea, if he cannot produce a victory in those next 2 games, I fear that the noise is going to get extremely loud. The one thing, though, I'll say before I hand over to Mitch is that I think Levy is so invested in Ange Ball, giving him the players that he wanted more so than what normally happens. You know, where you know the director of football's buying and they just have to nod along and accept the players. I think he's invested in Ange, and I think he's too scared to pull the plug, even if we go on a really bad run. I'll leave it there for the second, because otherwise I'll just I will carry on, and it's going to be a long show. Over to you, Mitch.
We're only just getting started. We're just revving up that engine. We are. You know what? Look, I think there's a lot of fair points in there, Jonny, for sure. And the thing is, Mitch, bringing you in, I think you are one of the most positive fans that we have on Last Word on Spurs. And I think what many will hopefully take away from the show in general, that we always try and offer what I feel is a real perspective on where things are at. You know, we don't like to sugarcoat things. We don't like to dress things up. You know, we'll discuss difficult subjects to discuss on this show. And you know what? Jonny's right and TJ's right. We don't want the shows to be draining. You know, at the same time, we want to try and keep them as upbeat as we can. But at the same time, we'd be doing the viewers, listeners, the fans a disservice by not acknowledging, talking about the displays, whether that's the players, the manager, and going through all that. So, I mean, Mitch, look, let's be honest about it. It was a fairly uninspiring performance from Spurs overall. Couple of good displays in there, but I think it tells a lot when you're discussing the likes of good performances from Fraser Forster, Ben Davis, Radu Dragusin, really. That tells you where Spurs currently are at right now. You know, we're not talking about that forward line, bar Brennan Johnson, who, to be fair to him, that his goal contribution is absolutely superb. I know many, though, do seem to be questioning Brennan about when he doesn't score, what else is he doing? But he is putting the ball in the back of the net. He is Tottenham's top goal scorer. What is your main takeaways, Mitch, from that display for you? You told me in the green room there, I hope you don't mind me, divulging anything personal there, that you're feeling quite low at the moment about Spurs. So what is it that's really frustrating you at the moment as a fan?
Yeah, well, firstly, it's really great to be back on, and congratulations to yourself and everybody involved on the award you picked up at the FCAs the other week. That's the positive stuff out of the way. Where do I start?
Here we go.
I mean, look, I went out this morning and played football myself it was torrential rain where I was, windy, muggy. It was like playing on a bog. And I got home at about 1:15. I was like, oh, brilliant. Just in time to sit the Spurs game. I'm a bit of an earlier kickoff today. And I sat there watching it. And by half time, I thought, I wish I'd played another 90 minutes in the weather that was outside at the same time. I was just, it's so crazy because, like I said to you in the green room, I'm always trying to pick out both sides of things. Okay, what are the positives and what are the negatives? But for me, the positives today were the players that I thought played well were the players that are actually coming in to cover the injuries at the moment. As you mentioned, Fraser Forster, Ben Davis, Reddy Dragusin. I actually thought Timo had a pretty decent game up until he was subbed off in terms of the running that he was doing. It was a lovely assist for Brennan's goal as well. So, it's only fair that he gets a bit of credit when he does do good things, because he's the first to get slated when he doesn't.
Were you surprised, Mitch, that he went off? Because I was a little bit surprised.
I was. I thought Brennan might have been taken off instead. Yeah. I think the main reason he wasn't is because I think Brennan's a better runner than Timo, and he's got a bigger tank. And that's one of the main things that I think we missed in the final third of the pitch today. I think, look, people have their own opinions on Dominic Solanke and what he does for Tottenham. He may not be scoring as many goals as people would like him to be, but I think a lot of people also underestimate the running work that he does and how crucial that is to suffocating other teams. And unfortunately, as much as I love the bloke, Sonny doesn't do that anywhere near as good as Solanke can do. And it's really sad to say, but I thought Sonny had a really, really poor performance today. I don't think he was great at all. I know he's struggled with injuries a little bit this season, and he looks a bit tired, and his body's probably been through a lot over the years. But the main thing for me today that annoyed me the most is when Fulham went down to 10 men. What do we have? 10 minutes plus stoppage time left. So give or take 15 minutes left of the game. When they went down to 10 men, Fulham still looked like the better team, and they still looked like the team more likely to score. And that is what doesn't sit right with me from today's game. You're at home, albeit, okay, the atmosphere wasn't great. It was a miserable day. All of those factors come into play, and maybe the whole sort of afternoon was just a bit flat. But when an opposition player has been sent off and it's 1-1, it's not like we're losing at this point, right? The incentive is there to go and get a winner. But did we even have a clear-cut chance after Cairney was sent off? I don't think we did. No. And yes, okay, tired legs, but then the two subs that he makes after that red card, Lucas Bergvall and Archie Gray, come onto the pitch, and he waits until we're well into added time to bring on Will Lankshire, that probably one of the only, if not the only attacking player we have on the bench. I can't remember who tweeted it, but I saw it earlier. I think we had like 7 people on the bench who haven't played a game in the Premier League yet today. So, you're stretched in that sense. But, as Jonny mentioned, the 2 points or whatever it is we picked up from the list of teams that he rattled off ultimately is not good enough. And I go into the Bournemouth game on Thursday thinking we might get turned over quite badly because I think they're a good team on their own pitch as well. And I don't even want to think about the Chelsea game next weekend. But yeah, I just there were a lot of things that sort of led to a bit of a build up for me today, being really annoyed. And I always try and give myself like an hour or two after the game to settle down and just digest things and have a look.
And I've given you 5.
Yeah, I know. But it's just, we have to cope with it. And that's what we're going to struggle with. So many games coming up in so little days. We, like, at the end of the day, we have the injuries that we have. Like we do. How are we going to deal with it? And Ange is all for this. I'm going to play this attacking football. I'm not going to change my ways in tactics. Does that give us the best chance of winning games in this upcoming run when we're playing 2 games a week until the end of the year? by playing that brand of football and by playing that high intensity attacking football. Because the players did look tired today. They did look tired.
Yep.
And with the stretch that we have and the lack of senior first team starting players we have at the moment, is it going to be enough to pick up points? How many points are we going to pick up between now and Christmas? Because I'm not sure. I'm not sure at the moment.
It's a difficult one. I mean, just to again qualify that point, we are aware, for those that are just coming into the show, we are aware Spurs are missing 6 starters. They're missing 8 overall. Again, I'll re-emphasise that point. We know they're missing Vicario, Van der Ven, Romero, Solanke, Odegaard, Moore, Richarlison, Bentancur. We've made that point. 6 of them will probably get into the side. But at the end of the day, everybody has their fair share of injuries in the Premier League. And as we know, the case is you've got to get on with it. That is football. This is the nature of the Premier League week in, week out. And we are also acutely aware, Spurs behind the scenes train to game intensity. That is why we do pick up a number of these injuries. I mean, me and Jonny, we had a discussion over the phone, Jonny, about the fact that, when Spurs do play at game intensity in training, is that affecting matters? Look, what we are going to quickly do, I will just bring in the thoughts of Ange Postecoglou, because I think it's fair you hear from the man. Like I say, he was giving his response directly after the game to BBC Sports. So we're going to try and loop in, if we can, that interview right now for you. So if you bear with, we're going to try and bring that in to focus for you. So these are the, obviously I say, this is Ange Postecoglou's reaction. We're going to try and bring it into the show just because of the nature of the interview. Because I always find, Ange, many have different feelings about what they do feel and say and hear from Ange. So sometimes it's good to get it directly. We're going to bring that in with Ange right now. I'm going to be back with you in just a second. Bear with me just 1 second.
Okay, Ange, when we see you on the touchline during the game, no matter the situation, your demeanour outwardly doesn't change too much. You don't give too much away. But what are you thinking about a point today?
Yeah, look, it was probably fair. It was a tight game. Neither team kind of opened up too much. It was hard to sort of dominate, I think, for any side. So it was a tight game, and probably was always going to be decided by some sort of half chances, and ended up getting the draw.
You said it before the game that Fulham were going to come and have a go, and that's precisely what they did at every available opportunity. Yeah, no,
they certainly did, and but for the most part, I thought we handled it okay. We had a great chance in the first couple of minutes, and you need to take those just to put some pressure on them. But like I said, after that, I thought we had to hang in there for quite a few bits of the game, and we did that. We got a good goal, and it looked like we were getting on top, and then we kind of lost a bit of momentum when they scored.
Was that the frustration for you that you weren't having got that breakthrough at a time when they were playing very well at the start of the second half? Having made that breakthrough, you weren't able to build on it for the rest of the second period.
Yeah, no, it was. But again, it's not like they created loads, and from my perspective, we're pretty thin on the ground at the moment. These boys are giving everything. They're dipping into energy levels that many wouldn't. So. I can't ask too much more of that.
Yeah, you're looking at my list of questions here, and you mentioned the fact that you're a little bit thin on the ground. I was going to head towards that. Have you got anybody who might be coming back in on the horizon? Because, you need every pair of fresh legs you can get at the moment, don't you?
We do, yeah. Well, hopefully, like I said, Dom was just sort of today, and, obviously we've got Thursday game, so hopefully he recovers from that. Romero's working towards getting back in, Van der Ven as well. They're kind of the main ones at the moment.
Positive though at the back, Forster. I know he's a very experienced keeper, but he was very solid for you today.
Yeah, no, pulled off a couple of important saves for us, and again, we've obviously been hit hard in that area as well. It's good to have somebody in there who's just stepping in and contributing.
And thoughts on the red card for Tom Cairney? I don't know what you saw of it at the time.
I didn't see much of it at the time, but obviously he's had a look at it VAR and thought it was a red card. So, yeah.
So there you go. Those were the thoughts of Ange Postecoglou after that game.
Ricky, inspirational stuff. I hang on a second. I'm so motivated right now. I can't tell you how I can control myself. Sorry. I was thinking
we might have to wake you back up, John, after that. Can I go to TJ? TJ, you said on this show just 7 days ago that you want to see this Ange-Out, whatever you call it, movement, form being now pushed to one side, there to be a fully focusing emphasis on the team. Look, we've made that point again. I think I brought it up like for the fourth, fifth time here. We're aware acutely there's injuries. You know, they've got that suspension with Bentancur in there. Where are you just in terms of at the moment there being surrounding question noises in relation to the manager? Because, you know, again, there are, as you know, acutely aware online, that it does feel there's a real split in the Spurs community right now as to whether this manager is the right person to lead Spurs forward, whether he should be getting more out of the group from a coaching perspective, not just a results perspective. So where are you around that for you at the moment?
Yeah, just to clarify as well, what I was referring to, and I think I made it quite clear, quite specifically on the show 7 days ago, was that what I was hoping we could move away from, and of course I always say that our fans are entitled to their opinions and they can hear them whenever they like, is that the Ange is out of his depth chat. I think that's not, in my opinion, an accurate appraisal. I think that he is more than capable of coaching at this level. However, there are things that he really should change. I did as well speak about his demeanor and even his clothing. And people were, you know, laughing, and some people got angry with me, and some people kind of saw it that it wasn't an entirely serious point. However, there is reasons why bastions of industry, CEOs and all that kind of thing, you know, will go to the tailor and go and get their Brioni suit cut just right and the shirt just cut just right, whether they, you know, look like a male model or whether they don't. And so his appearance, like, again, wear a jacket that fits, look like you are the manager, the leader of one of the biggest football teams, i.e. one of the biggest businesses in the industry of sport. You are the figurehead of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. So how many fans do I hear? And I completely understand. I think Jonny mentioned it again today, you know, standing on the sidelines in abject silence with your hands in your pockets while Marco Silva is giving his team a rollicking at half time. I've made jokes, but also with a lot of seriousness. Coach Taylor in Friday Night Lights, I know it's a TV show, but that's all based on real people.
Correct.
You know, they're all based on real people. Why don't we have more of that? Why don't our players come bursting out with fireworks going off and beautiful girls and handsome lads throwing them up in the air and they're doing cartwheels and they break through that banner that says Tottenham Hotspur on it, you know, ready to kill. I honestly think that killer mentality is just not there and hasn't been at Tottenham, goodness me, in potentially decades. I mean, look, you know, the peak Poch team, they were a great side, but we were so good. I don't think we needed like a killer. We were so good technically, and we gelled so well together, and so much kind of cohesion and, dare I say, love in that team that we didn't need it. But every now and again, to Mitch's point, man, if they go down to 10, put them to the sword. Put them to the sword. Push them all the way back. Push them back onto their 18-yard line and just go again and go again and go again. I don't want to hear at that point that they're tired, because that little bump that you get from knowing, okay, these guys are going to have their back against the wall, you have to impose that to make them feel that way. Don't give them extra impetus to have them say, okay, guys, let's beat them with one less, because that impetus shift, that attitude shift, they made it, and it was clearly evident in their body language and the way that they played. Ours didn't change at all. So I do think that Ange really should look at himself in the mirror, and I mean that figuratively and literally, and find a way to inspire these boys. I know they're tired and I know we've got injuries, but my goodness, this is a difficult thing to do. We're trying to talk about, you know, competing in the Premier League. It's the toughest league in the most competitive sport, the most popular sport on earth. So whatever you need to do, mate, that doesn't mean going down to the tailor and go, can you fix this so I don't look like a circus clown? Maybe that will help. These are young men, remember. So they're looking at an older person as a father figure in a lot of ways. Look like you know what you're talking about and inspire these boys. We're missing fire. We're missing vim and vinegar, for an old-fashioned expression. If you can't heal people. If Mickey Moore is sick and Romero is sick and Solanke came in sick, bless him, and he had to be sent home, and people are injured and hamstrings and you're overtraining them, definitely, but that's a different conversation. If you're going to be hampered by injuries, but your job is to get every ounce of effort and application and aptitude and attitude from these boys. Get it done.
just bring John in there, Mitch, just to bring you in, I want to ask you a question. Is it just a case of, again, I know people kind of week to week, maybe getting quite sick of the discussion around Ange Postecoglou, and they're saying, look, ultimately the guy hasn't been given the adequate tools to do the job. But, I've made this point, going back to whoever under Maurizio, I don't think any manager in the last 10 years at Spurs has been given the adequate tools to do the job. And I don't think they ever will be. I'm going to put this on say that I think, the club have made it abundantly clear where we are right now that they have, as Daniel Levy said in that recent fans forum, need investment to enhance both the men's first team and the women's first team. And despite Ange coming out, and we'll come on to his pre-match presser shortly, where he comes out and says, hinting that he needs players. He may very well need players. Of course he needs players, but my concern always goes back to the point that I think the calibre of players Tottenham need, I don't think we're going to sign. I just don't think they're going to sign. And again, it will come back to that point. I think Ange so far had between around 350 million, around that kind of figure already, speculatively speaking, and you look at what's been brought in and what's gone out, that I do worry, the case of how much money more will they give this man to really trust him with this rebuild. Where are you, Mitch, for you in terms of Ange? Is he working with a squad that simply isn't up to scratch when it comes to what the players are being tasked for Ange ball? Are these players particularly good enough for the system he wants to play when you see this squad, Mitch?
Honestly, I think they are. And the reason I hold this opinion is because we've seen it. Like, we've seen brilliant performances under Ange Postecoglou. We've seen us beat the best teams in the league. It seems like a lifetime ago now, but that performance against City, and we even did that without a few of our key starters as well, albeit City are in the mess that they're in now. But we know that under Ange, we can beat any team if we are at our best. We have the highest ceiling, probably of anyone in the Premier League, maybe even Europe, but we also have, the biggest gap between what our best is and what our worst is. And that for me is a mix of the reason for that is a mix of a few things, in my opinion. I think the mentality is number one for me. The mentality, okay, ask yourself the question, do Tottenham want to be the best team in the Premier League, in England, in Europe, in the world? Do they want to be? Does Daniel Levy want Tottenham to be the best team in Europe? Because surely, if the answer to that question is yes, then you do everything you possibly can to facilitate that and help the manager on the pitch. Okay, the argument is there that people will say, Andrew's happy with the players that we signed this summer. But we don't know if that's true. Like, realistically, okay, he might have come out when the transfer window closed and said, I'm happy with the squad I've got. But realistically, most managers are going to do that. We saw what happened to Scott Parker at Bournemouth when he said that he wasn't happy with the transfer business the club were doing. He got booted out.
Improved.
Yeah, exactly. But I know, I get it to that extent. But okay, Lucas Bergvall, Archie Gray are the two examples I want to use. I'm not piling hate on them because they're young players and they do have really great potential. But when you're talking about rebuild, are these players going to be to the level that we want in the next 2 or 3 years? Or are we still going to be waiting for them because they're only 18 years old? Are we still going to be waiting for them to get to their top level and fully develop in 2 or 3 years' time? Like, how long is the rebuild? Wilson Odobert, okay, think back to the transfer window. We were all getting excited and getting ahead of ourselves, thinking we're going to sign Pedro Neto. And okay, perhaps maybe a few people come out and said, we refuse to pay what Wolves were asking for him, and that's why I ended up at Chelsea, whatnot. But, again, if we wanted to, we could have gone out earlier in that summer transfer window and signed Pedro Neto and signed players of that calibre. It's not that Tottenham don't have the draw to do it and the appeal to bring those players into the club, because we absolutely do. It's just, I ultimately think the club prefers to invest in players and hope that they're going to turn out right. And in a few years, okay, maybe I'll look back on this and I'll think, wow, You know, I got that completely wrong. Lucas Bergvall's the best under-21s player in the world. Or Archie Gray is the best converted right back, centre midfielder, left winger that you know Spurs have ever seen. But I just feel like at the end of the day, it stems from the top. Manager can only do so much with the players that he has. And do we have the team and the squad and the players to compete for titles? I don't think we do. Do we have a squad capable of being there or thereabouts when it comes to qualifying for Europe? We probably do. So the ultimate question for me is, what is the aim? Is it just getting into Europe, or is it going that step further? And I feel like, sorry if I'm going on a little bit here.
No, you're not at all. I'm really glad you brought this up, Rich. I'm really glad.
I feel like we've been asking the question, are we that club that wants to go that step further and win for 5, 6, 7 years since the peak Pochettino years? And we still haven't done it. I don't know. I'm starting to question whether we've progressed at all in the last 5, 6 years. I genuinely don't know. Like, you know, there's arguments for and against it, and it's a big debate. But you know, I feel like I'm being really negative, but I'm struggling a little bit at the moment just with the consistency. I'm so frustrated because I've seen how good we can be. But we can't be that team on a consistent basis. And how long does Ange get to be able to produce that consistency?
I think that is the key thing you bring up there, Mitch, coming over to you, Jay, is that many have seen, you know, when Ange ball works, how great it can be. You know, it's been tremendous when it has worked. When it hasn't worked, it has been so bad. And the problem is, that I say, is that you're now in a situation where I'm acutely aware of this doing the shows now, that you're going to be impossible to please everyone, because there'll be some that are really staunchly can see what Ange can bring. And that's going to need time. It's going to need patience. It's going to need focus. It is going to need, as Mitch says, investment. Whether he gets the investment he needs is another question. You know, I am probably now in Mitch's camp, and I don't want to prejudge it. I don't think he'll ever get that investment he will need to get this squad to where it needs to be. And there are some that are looking at the inconsistency week upon week that are questioning whether this can work. I mean, we often joke, Jonny, that when we do these shows, it is almost a call out to Samaritans on a Spurs official basis. But where are we, Jay? Because I do feel, I don't mean in any disrespectful way, because I know fans can't all get to the stadium week in, week out. I can't get there week in, week out with my family commitments and everything. But there definitely is a feeling around kind of match-going fans when I'm there, is that there's this real, even around me today, real frustration. You know, the lack of moving the ball faster. You know, the element of Ange, with no disrespect to him, on the touchline, you know, with his hands in his pockets. I mean, we were having a joke with somebody next to me there, you know, he didn't move for about 85, 90 minutes. He's almost like a statue, bless him. And the thing about this is that, you know, it's right. When we win, nobody really questions it. It's only when we lose that these questions surround ourselves, which again, maybe is unfair to bring that up. So, I mean, where are we, John, in your mind? When we talk about the word rebuild, you know, reset, I mean, you know, process. I mean, these are words we've heard now, buzzwords for the last 5, 6 years with Tottenham. I mean, where are we in this evolution? I can't believe I'm asking you this question after I drive myself mad with this club.
Well, we say laughs like a box of chocolates. You never know which one you're going to get. Well,
we said that last week as well. Yeah, honestly, unbelievable.
That's us, you know. Yeah. And you know, I think TJ makes a point. You know, I think, does Ange persona reflect on this team? You know, TJ said, you know, come out with all guns blazing, walk onto that pitch fired up. You know, are the players, has Ange reflected his personality onto these players? Because I don't see any fire. I don't see that fire, that passion. I don't see any of that. And to go on to Mitch's point, ambition. Is ambition cutting your wage bill by £30 million in a season? I would say not. Ambition is to increase your wage bill maybe by £30 million a year, not to decrease it by £30 million a year, to make the balance book and the books balance in such a way that any investment looks good value for money. Because I think that is what it was more about. Has he been backed? I would say Ange has been backed. I think this is, I personally think that 360 odd million that's been invested is probably Spurs' biggest investment since we invested in the biggest disaster the last time Levy trusted anyone, which was Steve Hitchen, who managed to pour fortunes down the drain in players that never made it. Look, it's a difficult one. You know, Ange says, you know, he always wins something in his second season. And, you know, he's in the press there saying, you know, I don't talk about being in one competition. I want to win everything. Does that include the league? Yes, it includes the league. He also said when he was at Celtic in his first season, there was a lot of hamstring injuries. And we got told last season, yes, there's a lot of hamstring injuries, and Ange repeated this. But in the second season, they get used to the intensity, and we had far less hamstring injuries. Well, I'm sorry, there's something fundamentally wrong. I think these are self-inflicted injuries that are being carried out. If you've got intensity in the amount of games you're going to play, then you have to ease off in the intensity, in my opinion. I don't know, Mitch, what you think, but I think you ease off the intensity midweek in your training so that you don't exacerbate any tweak or little knock that they may have. And I think, you know, a lot of this doubt is brought upon Ange himself. Some of the comments are totally unnecessary. You know, when you've had that performance against Roma, maybe just turn around and say, you know what, I understand the fans' frustration tonight. There are a few things that we got wrong. Myself and our trainers and our players will work on this during the week. We know we're not perfect. We know we've got a long way to go, but we're working on it. That's the sort of stuff that fans want to hear to keep the belief, not being told fairy stories and things that just aren't believable to a large majority of adults. If you're talking to 14, 15 and 16-year-olds, maybe they'll suck that up and believe it. I don't buy it. I've been watching football for far too long. Tell me the truth. Tell me the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. That you're not happy, that things aren't quite right, but we're working on them. It's just like, you know, with the set pieces. I don't care about the set pieces, or, you know, we're not working on that. That's rubbish. It's rubbish. Do I want another rebuild? No, I don't. But I've got to say that I agree with Mitch, that I believe this team with the right coach who has that balance between attacking philosophy and a dollop of pragmatism is the type of coach that succeeds. We don't want to go back to pragmatic, boring football. We want to go back to the Spurs way, whatever that was, that used to be. But with a hint, that's why I was a massive Arne Slot fan. I mean, this isn't something after the event. Anyone who knows me will know why I wanted Slot before Ange was ever on the scene, even when Conte was there, because he's an attacking coach who has, you know, when he was at Feyenoord, was in a situation where he was quite successful. Then he had half his players sold underneath him. Then he had to rebuild again, and he did it again. And this is a guy who's faced adversity and just got on with it. But he balances attacking football with a hint of pragmatism. And that's what you see. Jurgen's sort of Gengen press has now been tempered with, you know, a really nice, balanced football where they're still attacking and they're still good and exciting, but they're also very good defensively. And I just don't think Ange is ever going to accept that, you know, he hasn't reinvented the wheel. He hasn't found a new form of football that no one's ever found before in the 100 years of football that he's found this system that is going to, you know, beat everybody else, because we've clearly seen when teams come at us with a low block and a counter-attacking football, we have no answers. And the players on the pitch, they look at each other with no answers, and they're looking to a manager, in my opinion right now, who doesn't have the answers and doesn't relay those answers to those players on the pitch.
Like I say, at the moment, I will make that point. It's very hard with these shows because at the same time, as I'll make that point, as I've made throughout this case, there's many that are firmly in that
100%.
pure belief that, Ange Postecoglou will get it right. I think, again, I'll make that point. For Ange Postecoglou to get this right, I think he is going to need a lot more investment in this squad to get up to a level where he's got the players and the caliber to do so. And again, it goes back to that point where the Spurs will invest to give him those tools to be able to get that players to that level he wants them to be. But again, I will qualify that point just to be clear. We are aware we're missing 6 starters, 8 overall missing. And again, that plays a huge, huge part in any team, any squad. When you're missing the spine of your team or the spine of your squad, to be missing that many players, it is hard to get consistent results. So that, again, is always the question. Can we find that consistency? We shall see. Look, what we are going to do, we are going to go for our belated first break of the show for our listeners and audio. We have got over 4,500 of you that are watching the show live. As always, thank you so much for all your incredible support for Last Word on Spurs. And again, thank you for the love that I received earlier today, where again, I'll make that point as I was told at the start of this show. Rick, what time is therapy? Therapy is here. I said to the boys before we start, bring your therapist outfits. God, we need you. We really, really do. And like I say, we'll be discussing and dissecting that game and how it did play out. A reminder for you, we are delighted to be sponsored by NordVPN. Nord have been our long-term partners for over 4.5-5 years here on Last Word on Spurs. I'll make this point that for those that are travelling away to the likes of Rangers to come, you're going to need this, of course, tool, device, whatever you want to call it, when you're away to be able to catch up on those games that are going on back in the UK, your favourite shows, your favourite programmes. Of course, Nord allows you to change your location settings from where you are to a different part of the world. It's great for saving money, such as things as flights, accommodation, the lot. You know where to find them. They're nordvpn.com/LWOS. And they also give you 4 extra months of free on a 2-year plan. Now, we gave you Ange's thoughts actually after the game there. And Ange spoke to the written press where he did admit tight game, tough game, not a lot of openings for both sides, just a few opportunities to score. We started the game well, probably should have been 1-0 up, but put some pressure on. They had their spill. Fraser made a couple of good saves. I'd say more than a couple. I think he made a couple of great saves in there. We got our nose in front, just couldn't push on. I think not for the lack of trying. The players gave everything they could. We just couldn't push on. It was a decent strike for their goal. We tried to get some momentum late in the game when they went down to 10, but it just wasn't a lot of openings. There was a lot of stoppages. We just couldn't get on top of them. Now, he was asked about Solanke's late withdrawal and how it impacted the plans. And Ange made the point, look, it doesn't help the situation. And I think I've made this point actually in a previous couple of shows that whilst I've been, honestly about it, I've been fairly positive about Solanke and the overall contribution to the side. I think TJ has been as well. Whilst there's been maybe a lack of, consistent goals so far, I think he really does help Spurs from a build-up play perspective. And said, look, that on top of Richie, Mikey Moore, Wilson, leaves us pretty thin up top, and we're trying to manage that process. I think from my perspective, the players, the ones who are out there anyways, they've given their absolute everything, and that's all you can ask for. They are working their socks off. They're digging in deep, and as they can try to keep us progressing, that's all you can ask. He was asked about that fixture congestion, how that's going to affect Tottenham in, of course, the recent weeks, given that injury list that we referred to. He said, look, we are playing tough opposition. It's not always going to go smoothly for you, but I know people want to keep using City as a reference point. But against City, I was able to put on Timo Werner, Brennan Johnson. We have Vakari in goal. I guess people are looking for easy targets, but if people don't understand what we're dealing with at the moment, how are the players coping with it? I think it's fairly evident. We are going to have days like this where things are not running smoothly. All you can ask is for the players to give everything. And I think they did that more than often. And he referred obviously back to that game. He was also asked about Solanke's availability to face his former club, Bournemouth, in which he said, I hope so. He did train on the Saturday, but he came in ahead of this game, didn't look well, so we sent him home. It's obviously an illness, so not injury-related, so we need to hope it settles down in the next few days, and hopefully it's not too significant. He was asked about the former Heung-Min song, which is where we're going to go next on this show. And Ange was asked a question about Sonny's overall form and whether he's struggling in front of goal. And said, look, you could say that about a number of our players. The key to it is to stay focused, and Sonny will. It's not like he dwells on things. That's what the best goal scorers do. They don't dwell too long on the opportunities. I don't sense in him that he's worried, and it's because he has proven himself year after year at this level. We have had different players go through spells at different times. The key for us is to maintain focus and not dwell too much on what has happened before. I'm sure the goals will flow for Sonny again. Now, look, Sonny had a few chances in that game. A one in the opening 50 seconds where, for those that are watching this show live are still here, this is what you'd say a routine Sonny opportunity that he puts away and buries. But again, a couple of early chances. Leno stopped both of them. And he contributed, if we're going to be honest about it and fair, very little after that. He looked really fatigued in terms of the game itself, really on the fringes of it. A very quiet day for the captain where it's games like this where you need those leaders, those key focal points of the team to really step up, grab the game by the scruff of the neck and see us through. And there were times, I think, if we remember, boys, and you're all nodding away there, coming to you, TJ, how many times did Harry Kane, I think about games where Harry did really nothing for the game, but he scored. And the thing is, what actually happened as a byproduct is no one really mentioned the performance because he got the goal and that's all that matters. I mean, is this just an element where Sonny is going through a period of dysfunctional form, if we put it like that? Because again, we spoke about the last show, he is still contributing assists to the team from a GA perspective. Or is it deeper where we're witnessing the decline of Sonny here for you?
I mean, listen, we talked about Sonny pretty extensively last time, and I certainly aired my opinion on him. I'm a huge fan of Sonny. My favourite Tottenham player has been for many years. There's no doubting his ability. There's no doubting his quality. He had a really, really poor game today. I actually thought he was our worst player today. It's interesting, actually, Rick, when we were on the show last time, and it was you and myself and Crackers and Darren, and we were all giving predictions on this game, and Crackers, again, sort of, partly humorously said, I'll let you know after a couple of minutes. And we missed that sitter in minute one. I'm sure you were probably thinking the same thing, weren't you, Rick? I was thinking about Crackers when he missed that. And also the manner in which he missed it. No pace, no sting in that shot at all. It must have bobbled across the ground 3 times before ending up very easily coming off of Lenu's right leg. Not a great start. And it kind of made me think, oh, crumbs, we're in for another one of those days today. And we were. He was really poor today. He does look tired to me. I don't think he's fit, I just don't think he's fit, because I don't think he's washed. And again, like, people are like, Sonny's done and all that. I don't see that. And again, people are entitled to their opinions, right? I'm never going to argue with anybody. But I'm also entitled to my opinion. And the reason why I'm on this program is to air those opinions. So I still think that Sonny is an absolutely top class player. I don't know if there was any truth to it at all, but I was reading this thing on X yesterday that apparently Barcelona are interested in Sonny, and I thought, I wonder what the Barcelona fans are saying about this. And again, 99% of these people were turning cartwheels down Las Ramblas, thinking of the idea of Sonny coming to their club because he's an outstanding footballer. He just wasn't at his best today, but very few were at their best today. But listen, here's some positivity, right? And again, genuine. It's grounded and it's real. We didn't lose. We could have lost today. We did not lose. And also, I thought Dragazin and Ben Davis are looking absolutely fantastic. I'm actually, like we said this last time. Van der Ven walks into the team just because he's so quick. But I think Ben Davis on both sides of the ball was so good today. His positioning sense was excellent. His football intelligence is through the roof. His fitness is just undeniable. He's never been the quickest, but he looks quite quick just because he knows how to read the game so well. Also, his forward passing had zip and had purpose. I thought he was absolutely outstanding today. And I'm really happy to see Dragazin get a few games on the bounce, because I was highly critical of him, and I'm more than happy to eat my words when I get it wrong. I'm going to hold my hands up and say, I got it wrong, mate. I think he was just brilliant today, and I'm loving this partnership that he's forming with Ben Davis, because again, I think our biggest problem right now is we are so thin. And so having our quote unquote second string players be able to come in and perform at such a high level is going to be really, really important for us. So big up him, big up Fraser Forster. I thought he had a great game. Porro and Udogie look knackered. God knows what Spence has to do to get a game, bless his heart. He couldn't even buy a vowel in Wheel of Fortune, could he, bless his heart? I'm sure we'll talk about him again. But yeah. Defensively, I thought our centre-backs and our goalkeeper, I thought, were outstanding today. I thought Maddison was poor, Biss was poor. We're missing Benton Kerr. My goodness, I hope we get him back sooner rather than later. I thought Timo had a decent game. Johnson, I'm not sure, man. I mean, I think he's a terrific player and I really like him. Again, he was catching more hate yet again today, although he scored. And maybe he didn't do much more than that. But we didn't offer much, did we? So I don't think we can kind of land the responsibility for today's kind of listless performance. at the feet of Brennan Johnson. But we didn't
No,
lose.
no.
We got the point.
Yeah.
We're still looking quite good in the league. We're in the cups. We're okay, guys. We need to have a really good January. And as far as kind of the owners helping us out, write a check, mate. Write a check. Spend that money. We are the most profitable football team on earth. Bring in us a couple of players, man. Give Ange a chance. Give him a chance, because I believe in Ange, and I always have.
Yeah, bless you, mate. I mean, I want to go back to Son of a Candace for a second there, Jonny, because that's kind of, I would say, one of the more main talking points really around the stadium coming out of the game afterwards was around Sonny's display. I just wonder whether, we are hearing reports that Spurs are going to trigger respective options for both Ben Davies and Heung-Min Son on a further year, for both of them, a further 12 months to extend their contracts. When you look at a player like Sonny right now, is it just a case that we've overused him? Or is there a serious concern about his form right now? Because, even through, many would say, this period where he hasn't been the real Sonny that we know, he's still been contributing goals. He's still been contributing assists. So are we overusing him? Does he need more rest? Is it just a case that we haven't been able to rest him? Because, again, I go back to the point, we're missing 6 starters. We've got 8 players out. I mean, where are we right now in Heung-Min Son for you?
Look, he's exactly the same age as Mo Salah. Okay? And sorry, Mo Salah. Sorry, I mean Mo Salah.
Is that a salad tonight? You could tell he's had a salad.
I was singing more
or
salad.
Or needs more salad.
He's 32 years of age. They're exactly the same age. I think they're 2 weeks apart. One looks absolutely ripped, on fire, ready to smash through walls. He's leading that team. And we've got Sonny, who looks like he couldn't fight his way out of a paper bag at the moment. He's earned the right to get another year's contract. Let's be honest, shirt sales aside, he served this club amazingly for years. And, but how long can you? I don't personally believe that any player, however great the past or whatever, deserves to start a game if they're not performing. And we've seen the lip go. We've seen a few tantrums when he's been taken off. We've seen the same in James Maddison against West Ham when he was taken off and he didn't celebrate any of the goals we scored in the second half. This isn't part of a leadership group. This is part of the tantrum group. They should be leading by example. He deserves to get his year contract. And then you look at someone like Ben Davies. And Ben Davies, he runs the Spurs book club. I'm not sure how many of them in the club actually read books apart from himself, but he's definitely an educated individual. And he tries to encourage them to read and, and learn about the world outside of football, which is admirable. But he always comes in and does a job. I've over the years been really critical about him, but I need to take it all back now because 10 years in the saddle and he's still delivering. And he was outstanding again today. And he's been fantastic for Wales. He's a true professional. I wouldn't be surprised if he's still here in 15 years' time. He's probably studying his.
Can you imagine the haters day after 15 years if he's still here?
Yeah, I know, but I think he's the type of individual that like to go on to become a lawyer, or he'll end up in the management team as a highly respected, intelligent individual that will actually be an asset to the club. But when asked upon to do a job, he delivers. And so I think both of them deserve the extra year's contract. But I do seriously worry about Sonny. And like when we're talking about players, Radu Dragusin, I find it incredible that a guy who's come from Genoa, who came to Juventus, and then went to Genoa. And, he's playing in a back three, on the right side of the back three. He comes to England, forget his agent for a minute, but he comes to England. He hardly kicks a ball. And then when he starts, I remember he played in the game against Manchester City, when Man City were going for the title towards the end of the season. And he came in and he done a fantastic tackle on Haaland. He was unbelievable. Then we didn't see him again. And then this season, he's been brought in on the left side, playing left centre-back in a high line that he's not used to. And he doesn't have a good game. And people absolutely slaughter him. For me, a 22-year-old centre-back, you don't mature at 22. You're only just starting, in my opinion, only just starting your professional journey. I mean, I remember John Stones. You don't, going to Manchester City and really struggling. I think, you don't normally mature as a top centre-back till around about 25, 26 before you start to see them come into their own. So I think people need to cut him some slack because I think when he's playing in the right side, in his true position, playing a little bit deeper, he's very good. And let me tell you something. He's the best centre-back we've got in the air, both defensively and offensively, for sure. Yeah. And today, I mean, had a lovely header, powerful header that Lena did well to turn over. Yep. So, sorry, that's if I'm rambling, I'll lose my track there. But that's the question you were asking me, right?
No, absolutely. I must pick up on one thing from Adam there, bless him. Adam, about Wilson Palacios, the last best midfielder Spurs had there. Now, Adam, I wanted to say to you, just to make it very, very clear, I said 2 or 3 shows ago that what Spurs are missing in that midfielder's bite is someone like a Scotty Parker, a Wilson Palacios, a tough tackling player that would break up play and allow us to flow forward. I don't think Spurs have got that guy right now. I'd probably put Højbjerg into that mix. I'm not saying I want that caliber of player. What we are missing is a player that does that specific job of breaking up play to allow the more influential, the more skillful, the more technical players to go about and do their business. I'm not saying that Palacios was a world beater. What I'm saying is that the job he did, we haven't got somebody in there to do that job right now. And just for qualifying purposes on Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, just to be very, very clear, I'm not calling for Pierre-Emile Højbjerg to come back. What I do think we are missing is the leadership aspect that Pierre-Emile Højbjerg offered Tottenham. Even those first 10 games under Ange, he came on, he settled the team in those first 10. Yeah. We saw out games. I look at Tottenham right now, come over to Mitch here, Mitch, and, bringing you in with Sonny as well, that leadership point. Again, he's the captain of this football club. I look at us, we are devoid of any leadership. And to quote, I think, TJ, what he said at the start of the show, look, I am a really, really positive person, right? In all aspects of my life, I'm positive. I tell my kids, bless their heart, they can achieve anything they want. They can reach for the stars. They can do whatever they want to do. They can believe in whatever they want to believe. And I'll back them. I'll always back them. And they can make mistakes. And I'll keep on backing them and backing them and backing them because that's the kind of guy, that's the kind of person I am. I think you should always reach for the stars. I think you should always believe in what you want to believe in. But, it's very hard right now for me that I love this football club. I adore the club. It's my life. I go to bed, goes my wife saying this, thinking about it. I wake up thinking about it. And the key is that, for me, it's always about, as you said at the very top of your point, Mitch, going to you, being first, being number one, being the best. And that is where I have really struggling, hamstrung concerns about what do Spurs want to be. I look at Sonny right now, bless his heart. Sonny now, let's be honest about it, he's on the other age of his career. We have to be real and say that, There's no doubt about it. Sonny still offers some absolutely mesmerising moments. He still gets great goals. We spoke the other week with TJ as well about the assists he brings to the team. But when you're looking at Sonny right now, what do you feel, Mitch, for you? Is it just a period of form where it's unstable right now and he'll get back to that level? Or are we really missing that core leadership that I feel we need as a group? When players' heads are dropping, like we said earlier, when it's 1-1, someone to drive this team on that final 5-6 minutes, because nobody in the stadium there for me was believing we're going to win that game. It then comes back to the players to really have somebody in that team to lead them to believe they're going to win it, to lead them to believe that we're going to score goals. Where are we on that point for you, Mitch?
Now, I don't want to upset anyone by saying this because it's like, oh yeah, we've been like this for 25 years, whatnot. But give it a year, and Kulusevski will be that player. I'm fully convinced that Kulusevski will be that player, that leader, that real, grab the bit by your teeth and push forward and just get the job done. Naturally, he was a huge miss today against Fulham, and when I look at that squad of players, if I were to pick someone out and go to who I think is capable of making a difference at the moment with an individual bit of quality or motivating his teams, or most importantly, leading by example, Kulusevski for me is that player, not Sonny. And look, I'm not saying that I haven't got anything against Sonny. I love the bloke, and I'm happy to keep him around for another year or so. And I do think that he still has the quality. It's just perhaps the thing is when a player stays at a club for so long, and you see them, and I said this about Harry, and I'm sure I've said this about Sonny before, and we've seen the best of him and what he can deliver and what he's been capable of delivering. You're all of a sudden, you're there. And when he stops delivering that, you're sat there thinking, well, why is he not doing that anymore? And I think it was Jonny who mentioned earlier, same age as Salah. And, we're seeing what he's doing every single week still. Probably arguably been the best player in Europe this season, Mo Salah, at the same age. And he's still delivering, albeit perhaps with a better squad around him. But Sonny has shown flashes of that this season. But I think to be fair to him, his season has been quite disrupted this year. And he is taking on a lot more of a load than what he's been used to over the last couple of years. And maybe it's just catching up to his body a little bit. Having said that, you don't need to be in your peak condition and at the top of the game to be a real leader and a real motivator. And we do see it sometimes on the pitch from him, geeing the team up if we're going to goal down, or he steps up and produces a brilliant goal for us. It's just not necessarily all the time. And I think the key thing for me is not necessarily in the most important moments. So it's a really difficult one because I feel like he's the kind of player that if he's not playing well, he'll beat himself up about it and his head might slightly drop while he's still on the pitch. And then also, I don't think from a mental perspective, it's helped with Ange has been taking him off anywhere between, the 70th and 80th minute in the last few games. And when you get into those crucial parts of the games where maybe we need to see it out, taken off against Roma or taken off against Fulham or a few weeks ago against Ipswich or whoever it was, when you need someone to step up and he's being brought off early, maybe to protect him because of his injury, again, it makes it more difficult. And the personalities, of some of the players that we have in the squad, they're not those real tough love characters, are they? They're not the players that, like James Maddison, Heung-Min Son, they're not going to wander up to teammates on the training ground and give them a real bollocking, are they? Like they're just not going to do that. That's not who they are. It's just, maybe we need to find a bit more of a balance to that. Maybe that's why Vicario has been upgraded to the leadership group, because he's very vocal, he's very fiery. I can imagine when Romero is really angry, he might have a few snaps. And I do think you need that balance to have a squad that are going to get up for those moments. I mean, we definitely missed it today. We definitely didn't have it today. There was no fight on the pitch at all today. But for Sonny, I think the most important thing for him is he just needs to keep his head up and he needs to just keep working. And we know firsthand from watching him all these years, he does have patches where he's not scoring and assisting as much and maybe not at his best level. But then all of a sudden, he'll score, 6 in 5 games or whatever it might be. And it only takes that little switch in form for confidence to go up. And naturally, when you're confident in the way that you are playing on the pitch, you're more motivated to help the people around you and get them up to a higher standard as well. So he's still got it in him. I've no doubt about that. But I think we need that through the whole team. I think maybe everyone just needs a little bit of a kick up the arse and just, really start going for it a little bit.
I want to come on to a positive. Yes, there was one. Fraser Forster, TJ. I mean, look, he was probably one of the shining lights out there in his display. He made a couple of tremendous saves, Fraser Forster, to be fair to him. And really was, one of the shining lights out of that performance. And again, it goes back to the point that, when you're discussing goalkeepers, defenders, it kind of sums up what kind of day it was. Ange was asked after the game about Fraser's, obviously, first Premier League match to start in 18 months, like it's never been away. He said, look, he was good. We needed him, obviously, in some big moments. And I think when you lose your goalkeeper and somebody significant for us as Vic, I think the key is to have somebody experienced who's not going to be sort of overruled by filling those shoes. Fraser certainly He's done it a number of times. We see him every day. What you saw out there, we see every day in training. He still has a really strong work ethic. We had a couple of big moments where he was really important for us, and he will be moving forward. And just to put that into context again, that was Fraser Forster's first Premier League appearance in 18 months, and he was truly excellent. He was on the day itself. I mean, overall, he denied Jimenez in the first half. He then made a full-length save to deny the same player 35 minutes into the game. He pushed an Iwobi shot onto the crossbar with his fingertips, made a save with his knee from Diop early on in the second half. It was an all-round action performance from Fraser Forster. And, again, it's players like that you feel sorry for because they really should be on the winning side in a game like that. I mean, TJ, how big a performance is that from Fraser? Because you mentioned that point. I think we mentioned 11 games in 38 days. Fraser's going to be in for all of them. How important was that display for him, confidence-wise?
Yeah, massive. And again, him and Ben Davies and Radu were terrific, right through the centre of our defence. They were excellent. They were so self-assured. I'm really pleased for him as well, personally, that he is grasping his opportunity. We've talked about this again before on the show. This is a cutthroat business, and if you're ever given an opportunity by the manager, whether it's for 5 minutes or whether it's for 5 games or whatever it may be, you have to really grab that opportunity with both hands. And my goodness, hasn't the big man done that? He's also, I mean, Vicario has come under a lot of flack about not being commanding enough from corners and set pieces and all that kind of thing. God knows Ange is bored with talking about that, so I won't bang on too much about that. But don't we all feel so terribly self-assured? Just this enormous statue in yellow, this sort of banana man-esque figure standing in the 6-yard box. He's very confident as well to leave that 6-yard box, come out and just snatch the ball out of the air. He also, another old school footballing quote, gets down well for a big man. I'm just really, really pleased for him. I think also he seems like a pretty popular member of the squad. Mitch very justifiably talking about personalities there and how these nuances, these little idiosyncrasies in players' characters can have enormous kind of effects on how they are deemed and how they choose to affect and influence others. And I just think that he's a really positive influence on the team in a great many ways, not just with his skills and his attributes, but just his physical size and his presence. Again, talking about demeanor. And again, this isn't about looks or about dress sense. It's nothing to do with that. It's about demeanor. That demeanor is important for these young men and for the fans. When fans are frustrated, we want to see that the leaders on the sideline and on the pitch are also frustrated and are trying to do something to turn that corner. And so with Fraser Forster, I think he's someone that the team, the squad, and now the fans really believe in as well. So really, really happy for him. And I think him and Davis and Radu have kind of made this sort of little triumvirate that they all really believe in each other's abilities and qualities. And it's going to be very, very important for us moving forward, because again, we've harped on so much in this show that we are really struggling for squad depth right now. We've been really hurt by key injuries to key players in key positions. So delighted for him, man. He's going to have to carry on and do it potentially into pretty deep into the season. So big up, big man.
Yeah, totally agree. Just on that point, if I can, Andrew was asked after the game about the two centre-backs of Ben Davies, Radu Dragusin, and said, look, they had to pose a lot of questions for Fulham. They got some pretty aggressive fullbacks wide at them, but I think, they were number one in the league, Fulham, for crosses in the box. We had to deal with that very, very well. Benny and Radu had been outstanding throughout this spell. And I mean, there aren't too many teams in the league who have both their centre-backs out. And I mean, look, I'm not suggesting playing the violin over here. To have one centre-back out and then you have to have two, we're just supposed to get on with it. The beauty of these boys is that, and I love them for it, the character they're showing. I love the fact they're not seeking excuses or wanting me to make some kind of allowance for it. But at the same time, I think we also need to acknowledge the massive, massive effort these guys are making in Radu and Ben, who are simply outstanding for us at the back. With regards to being asked about Dejan Kulusevski and the fact that he didn't start the game, obviously that's a question Ange Postecoglou was asked. I think we all would acknowledge and have seen Decky was really blowing, I think it's fair to say, after that game in obviously the midweek Europa League game, obviously that 2-2 game against AS Roma. And Ange said, look, we're going to have to protect players as much as we can. We're within our numbers, and Decky has played every minute up to date. And I mean, I've rarely subbed him off. So we've got to be very careful with him and a few others. But, at the moment, we just don't have too many options. So we've got to try and manage them the best we can. Obviously, that affects performances. I think he got through it well. And I guess for Thursday, he should be in good shape to start. So we will see with regards to that. And was pressed after the game as well on Christian Romero and where we stand on Christian. And he said, look, potentially back to Thursday. He still hasn't trained with the team. He's getting closer, but he still hasn't trained with the team. So him and Mickey are working with the sports science staff. So hopefully they're not too far away. And Ange, quite interestingly, was asked after the game in his final moment at that presser with relation to there being disappointment at the full-time whistle. And he was asked and questioned, what do you mean by disappointment, about G's? And he said, look, I didn't hear that. If that's the case, I'm not, having any dig at the supporters. I'm just saying, I've had probably 3 questions about the Man City game and why we can't repeat that level of consistency. And he said, look, I think you can't suggest or even dismiss it that, in the 7 days we've copped a significant amount of injuries since then. I think, it isn't too easy to say, let's just play well against Man City like we've done every game. At some point, it seems with this club, whatever I do, it's then used as a milestone to bring us down at every opportunity. I guess from my perspective, and I keep on saying it, it's really important that we don't react to any of that and we just stay focused, because I just sometimes feel like, especially the players at the moment, they're working really, really hard for this football club and to progress to get to where we want to be. And he wanted to make this point. We're in good shape. We're still in good shape. Why am I laughing? We're still in a decent position in the league.
He's not in good shape.
Okay. We're still in the Carabao Cup. We're in a decent position in Europe. So it's about maintaining our focus to continue and develop. And I just wonder whether, again, he's just really trying to pick the players up. There will be, as I think TJ said there may be the mood behind the scenes where maybe certain players are questioning certain things right now. And he's got to lift those players, because we make that point. There's a number of games to come where Spurs have got to be ready for what's to come. Bournemouth away, that is not going to be easy. We've seen Bournemouth at home this season, roll over the likes of Arsenal. They've rolled over City. They've given really good performances, Bournemouth. But again, they're not world beaters. We can beat Bournemouth. And then we know we've got Chelsea in 7 days' time. I mean, God, yes, can I have annual leave, please? I mean, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Look, we know what it's like with Tottenham. This is the element with Spurs that, week to week it's going to be hard. And he is trying to find that consistency. But at the same time, I think I've said this now for the 10th time on this show. And again, people say get a new record, Rick. I know we've got 6 starters out. We've got 8 overall. But the element is that we're going to have to find more to 100%, try as a team, as a squad, get through this tricky period and navigate it. Now, look, as always, after the show, you guys send in your questions. I think we had about over 40 plus questions that came into the show. The common ones being, I think John has made this point at the very start of the show. What does Spence need to do to get more game time? Porro wasn't having a great game. You do wonder at what point, there is going to be a change there, and Spence does get that opportunity. Avadry one says, we talk about a lot on the show, the players being at fault, the manager being at fault. The players seem lacking in effort, and that's a big, big concern. Charles Preston says, yet again, our midfield 2 foots without Bentancur and Kulusevski starting. It's painful to watch the likes of Basuma and Maddison, both listeners at times, and not showing that effort, application, and desire to really take us forward. David Lynch said, I was standing on the south stand. I felt numb and disengaged watching that flat, tired, uninspiring performance. In fact, I spent a lot of the game thinking about a couple of the hinges that I need to fix on a unit in my kitchen. I mean, look, what can I say? I mean, there's so many questions and answers here about the fact, why are we so inconsistent? It's infuriating. Chris Falk says, can't we play Man City every week? I mean, Jonny said to me, that's what we need to do, is play City every week because of the way in which they set up. But look, in terms of the lineup, we'll come on to the lineup and digress, and I will bring Jonny's thoughts in on that lineup because just to put it into perspective for you, this is what the Sachs household was like about, what was it, about 6:30, 7 o'clock this morning. My wife turned around to me and said, Rick, we've got to get the Christmas tree out. And I went, what, on a bloody match day? So the kids are up, we're getting the Christmas tree out. So I quite frankly, I mean, I literally stormed out the house. I texted Jonny, said, John, I was going to see you before the game, got no chance, I'll try and catch you afterwards. And literally I stormed out the house. There was baubles everywhere, right, decorations on the floor. I got out the house, right, and I'll make you laugh. And then the lineup came through, and I thought, God, what am I doing? Should I turn around now? I mean, Jesus Christ. That lineup for Tottenham, look, we make the point. They're without Vicario, Van der Ven, Richarlison, Odegaard, Mikey Moore, they were set to make a late decision on Christian Romero. It didn't come off. And, you know, we said that point. No, Ange said before the game, he just came in today, Dominic, wasn't looking his best. He was under the weather, and we sent him home. So Spurs had to make 4 changes. Maddison, Udogie, Basuma all came back into the team. Obviously, James Maddison as well in that side. It meant Dejan Kulusevski got a rest. Sonny playing as a 9 for just the second time of the season. That team lined up, forced Porro, Dragishin, Davis, Udogie, Sarr, Basuma, Maddison, Johnson, Son, Werner, with a bench of Austin, Spence, Gray, Reguilon, Cisse, Kulusevski, Bergvall, Williams, Barnett, Lancashire. And Tottenham, interestingly, had 7 substitutes on that bench who never started a Premier League game. Austin, Bergvall, Spence, Gray, Lancashire, Olise, and Williams, Barnett. The only 2 who were Reguilon, who was back in the Spurs matchday squad. And again, it was bizarre seeing him, I can't be honest with you, warming up at the Spurs stadium, just going past me, glancing past, warming up. There he got a little bit of a round of applause. And Dejan Kulusevski. Reguilon last played for Spurs in April 2022. I mean, Jay, is it just a case that lineup really is what's been forced at now? Can we criticise the lineup at the moment for you?
Well, obviously, you know, we've got to take into account the injuries. But look, for me, you need a double pivot of Basuma and Papassar and Bentancur with Kulu in the middle, right? So we can't play Bentancur, and Kulu wasn't playing today. So you're going to start with Maddison, Basuma, and Papassar. Not good enough. I'm sorry. We were so narrow against Roma, and it was a real worry because constantly they came down the flanks. We gave them so much space, and I thought, is he going to change something today? You know, is he going to try and negate the fact, like he said, Fulham put in the most crosses in the league this season? What are you going to do about it? Answer, nothing. Reece Nelson, I thought, had a fantastic first 50, 60 minutes. I mean, he just kept tearing down the left-hand side in that first half. They have so much, you know, talent in that team. Sander Berge in the middle of the park with Alex Iwobi were really putting our midfield to the sword. Robinson down the flank. We looked under so much pressure. I don't think we looked like we were ever going to win that game, personally. And I think the red card saved us. I just wonder why, knowing the type of game that they play, Fulham, he didn't change it. Listen, he says he's not interested in the other team. We will always play our game. We will always play our football. Well, to give you an analogy, it's probably not the best analogy, but if I'm a boxer and I've got a boxer and I said, right, you know, tomorrow, Tony, you're going to fight Mr. Jimenez. I said, I'll send you his fight reels. Oh, no, I don't need to see his fight reels. I'm just going to fight my fight. Yeah, but hang on, Tony, he's a southpaw. Oh, no, don't worry about that. You know, that's fine. It's fine. You have to take in the opposition. You have to at least look at the opposition, look for the weaknesses in the opposition. How can we exploit the opposition's weaknesses and maintain our strengths or enhance our strengths? But we don't do that. And sometimes, you know, before a game, you know, I'm not a tactician. I've watched a lot of football, all kinds of football over many years. And what baffles me is that before a game, I can see how a team is likely to play. And I think, now, how can we negate that? Nothing changes. And this is the problem I have sometimes with Ange. I feel that the City game, we look like we changed something by dropping a little bit deeper and playing on the counter. I mean, look, on a positive, right? Let's try and keep on a positive if we can. This season, we've scored 8 fast break goals. Last season, we scored 3 in the whole of the season. We've scored 8 this season. The best we've ever had, I think, is 9, 2019 under Poch. So I was thinking to myself, maybe if, you know, with the team we've got at the moment, if we played a little bit deeper and bring the teams onto us. You know, they were quite happy today for Fulham, for us to have the ball and hit us on the break. and they looked dangerous. And we didn't, apart from the first couple of minutes. I don't know what you guys, Mitch or TJ, what you thought about it, but I just thought that the team was toothless. You know, Sonny was never going to hold the ball up. And quite honestly, Will Lancashire, when they went down to 10 men, personally, Will Lancashire should have been on that pitch. What's the point of having him there? He's a big, strong guy. And last but not least, Jed Spence was warming up to come on, and when the red card came, Ange told him to sit back down, and he looked mighty pissed, as right he might be, because Pedro Porro looked absolutely exhausted. What would have been the problem? To bring on Jed Spence with a marauding run, full of energy, with a point to prove in those last few minutes. What could be lost? Yeah.
As I say, again, we bring back to that point. It was a frustrating game. And Mitch, I'll come over to you. I'm just going to relay some of that first half for those that weren't there and didn't want to witness it. Look, there was a chance for Spurs inside that first 50 seconds we discussed. Obviously, Sonny going through, Leno saved over his effort. Forster made a couple of really good saves in that first half, to be fair to him. A couple of really good opportunities, which, again, he was, really at one point saving well from Jimenez, and then after Iwobi picked him out, Sonny has again got into a back pass, tried to run in and grab the ball. Terrific full-length save from Forster to push away Jimenez's shot from 6 yards. Rado Dragusin leapt high to send a header at goal that Leno tipped over. That was the first time, can I just say, on the 38th minute mark, the crowd saying, "Come on, you Spurs." It was a real flat atmosphere at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Ben Davis, who was sporting a black eye, made an important early tackle in the Spurs box, did really well alongside Dragusin to keep the pace. We again saw that moment where the great save from Forster to tip away his shot onto the crossbar. And there was that moment where Maddison had in that first half, so close from a free kick. His clever low free kick took a slight deflection. It hit the left-hand post. And going into half-time, look, Spurs very much looking like a disjointed team based on that selection. Missing players galore. Fulham looked far more convincing. They hit the post. As again, we mentioned a number of very good saves from that perspective. What were your thoughts, Mitch, going into half-time? Being 0-0, did you feel that at half-time we would come out in the second half and offer more? Or did it go back to that point we say again, Mitch, that ultimately, there is a lot of fatigue in that squad. There's players that are missing. There is a need to rejuvenate this team, and where we are now, a month away from that transfer window opening.
Yeah, I think that I expected us to come out with more. It seems to always be the case. I think we struggle a lot in first halves at home. So just the natural expectation I have at this point is, okay, we're going to come out of the blocks flying in this second half. And usually gives them a rocket or whatever it is during his halftime team talk. And to be fair, we did score our goal relatively early in that second half. So it just, again, it comes back to that thing, doesn't it? Consistency. And why can't we play at the same level consistently across an entire game? They're actually, I don't like a lot of the commentary. I don't really like listening to commentary when I'm watching Spurs games because it just annoys me. But the fellow I was listening to earlier was actually making a good point. There's been a bit of a pattern in Spurs' play this season and last season where we start really well and then we just sort of seem to sit off, allow the opposition the ball, allow them to grow a bit of confidence, a bit of momentum. They'll have a couple of half chances or they'll grab a sneaky little goal somewhere or something. Then we'll get into half time, score will be whatever it is. We'll come out in the second half, start strong again, and then we drop off again. And that was the exact pattern the game followed today, I thought. Do you know what? I think we gave Fulham too much respect. I don't think we were aggressive enough in terms of trying to win the ball back off them. I actually thought we looked most dangerous on the counter-attack. And I was getting hugely frustrated in the second half because they were having a lot more of the ball, particularly in the opening sort of 5-10 minutes of that second half. And this whole idea of Ange-Out, and I'm trying to just sort of give analysis on the match here. I'm not trying to be too negative, and I think you guys all know that I'm behind Ange and I want him to succeed and I want to keep with him. But if we're going to play this attacking brand of football on the front foot, then we need to be on the front foot. And we weren't. And at that point, if it obviously, I'm just me and I'm not a qualified manager of a Premier League football club, but I'm sitting there and watching that game. I'm thinking, we haven't got any control of this. We're not on top of things. Okay, who can I bring off of the bench? And then you're sitting there, you're considering, okay, we've played a lot of games over the last couple of weeks. So who can we utilise? Obviously, the plan was always to bring Decky on with about 20 minutes to go, whatever it was, fine. I 100% agree on the Jed Spence point. I actually think he's been really good when he has played for us this season. And the thing is as well with Jed is we've seen him played at left back and at right back this season. And I think Udogie and Pedro Porro both look tired at the moment. So the fact that we haven't taken either of them on rather to give Spence some minutes, and we've seen it. Jed Spence is really, really good at carrying the ball, and that I think is what we needed. Kulusevski does it superbly, carries the ball forward, gains ground, pushes the opponents into their own half, and I think Jed Spence does that really well as well. So yeah, I knew that when we weren't making changes, Ricky, we got into that first half and I'm like, okay, it is what it is. At least we're not losing at this point. I was sort of thinking, okay, maybe there's a change to be made at halftime there somewhere to give us that little bit of an edge and a little bit of extra something to come out in the second half. And we never got it. And I just feel like we got the changes too late. And at that point, you guys know how games of football work at this level. You need the crowd behind you when you're at home, especially on a day like today, pouring down with rain. People are a bit fed up when you're not playing too well. You need the crowd behind you. And by the time that, you get into the late stages of the game and it's 1-1, you're looking for that winner, people are sat there thinking, well, we've been rubbish all day and we never looked like scoring. So, yeah, it's a weird one, and it makes me question how the game on Thursday against Bournemouth's going to go. Like, Ange is going to want to go there and play on the front foot like he doesn't want to against every team. But I don't know if we're going to be able to. I don't know if we're going to be capable of doing that with, the depth of squad that we have at the moment as well.
Well, we're going to have to hope players like Brennan Johnson are going to keep on scoring, because exactly what he's done again here. If I come over to TJ on this point and I'll go to Jay afterwards. I will bring this point into the show again for fair balance. Spurs, we didn't start the second half really well. Fulham in that early period, they had 3 decent chances. Forster saving at his near post from Diop's header with the knee. Forster against the rescue, 7 from Iwobi's effort as well. But Brennan Johnson, some would say, TJ, scoring against the run and play. Timo Werner, to his credit, picked him out. It was actually a lovely goal from Tottenham. Jay made that point that maybe they were a bit embarrassed to celebrate the goal itself, but Spurs worked it really, really well. Lovely ball from Timo Werner to find Brennan Johnson, who took it in his stride. 10th goal of the season for Brennan, in excellent form. 4th consecutive goal, including the 1 game with Wales, 3 with Tottenham. Brennan is at a very, very high point in terms of his goal scoring. Many would argue he's very quiet in that game for much of it, but again, you've got to say he's scoring the goals, and TJ, that is ultimately what he'll be judged on. Is that fair to say that?
Partially. I mean, he's a forward, and so we want him to put the ball into the back of the net, but he's not a centre forward. So, I'm a huge Brennan Johnson fan. I think he works really hard for the team. He had an off day today, but, he wasn't great today, but none of our attacking players were great today. And so at least he did put the ball in the back of the net. And again, that still that you showed before when Timo picked him out, and it was terrific. Look at him, both hands in the air, wanting to get into a position to score goals. That's been one of the criticisms across the fan base, and we saw, Ange, rare moment of kind of heated debate last week, was screaming at him to get forward, keep making those runs. I almost kind of think he underestimates himself a little, because his finishing when he's in the box is outstanding, and he's our highest goal scorer, and we're going to need that. So, good for him for putting the ball in the back of the net. I think this is an interesting one that I'd like to ask you guys about, and the viewers and listeners, is that so for me as well, today was actually quite a poor quality game. I do, to Mitch's point, I think that Fulham put us under a lot of pressure and played pretty well, but it was a poor quality Premier League game today. Premier League, highest standard in the world. So many errant passes on both sides, missed tackles, things like that, missed opportunities. Fulham created so many chances. To Jonny's point, they had absolutely free reign down both of our wings. I think Robinson as well is an outstanding player. Him and Nelson just terrorised poor Porro all day today, who looked exhausted, bless his heart. I actually really like Robinson. I think he'd be a great player for us, but that's a different conversation. But, so if we're on a Fulham podcast, Are they on there pulling their hair out going, how did we not win this game today?
Yeah.
Because they didn't. They did not win today. They drew today. They got 1 point and so did we. So are they on their podcasts with all their comments and everything flying and go, how did we not win today? And are there people on there going, well, Tottenham did pretty well, so it wasn't a great game today. It wasn't a great performance from us, but we didn't lose it. We scored a great team goal. And again, defensively, right, we've got some real gems in Fraser Foster and Ben Davis and Radu. Now, here's the thing about Spence and Gray and like these players that we should be giving more game time to. I completely agree with that. Here's the thing. So if he does it, like if he did, big call, over a month ago now, where he pulls Maddison off at halftime, right? And then we went on and won the game and everyone was like, oh, what was he doing? And it paid off. So let's say, I don't think he's going to start Jed Spence at right back against Bournemouth, but let's say that he brings him on at halftime. Right? What Spence is always going to bring you is energy and positivity. I think he's a player that really backs his talent, and I love that about him. And so if he does bring him on at halftime and we don't get a result, we can't turn on him and then turn on Ange. Like we have to be pretty level-headed in our thinking. If we want him to change things and he does, and it doesn't work, then we have to go, well, fair enough, you tried. I think that Spence would be a great option right now because Porro looks knackered. But if we do some rejigging and some reshuffling and everything, and it doesn't work, we can't throw all of our toys out the pram. Like we have to try to look for different ways to win games because we just don't have the players right now, lads. That's just the reality. We just don't.
Yep, total fact. You can't get away from that. We have not got, again, back to that point, people will get frustrated with me saying it. We have not got at the moment the spine of the team. So when you haven't got the spine of the team, that is going to dramatically affect results. Don't get me wrong. I think what it doesn't do, however, it affects the 11 that start the game in terms of their effort, application, desire, commitment. I think that should always be there as a given, no matter who plays and those players that do line up. Now, obviously, we talked about the fact Timo Werner making an impact on the game. And actually, before the Johnson goal, we talked about this point, Porro was looking knackered. He was really struggling to make the runs that his teammates needed him to. So you just felt at that point, surely you have to see Spence or Gray come on at that point. And, subsequently, Fulham do go on to equalise 1-1. I mean, Jonny, there'll be many looking at the goal, as we always do. Look, we always ask, can the goals be avoidable? Iwobi here on the side with Porro at that point seemed to switch off for a second. You could argue he got quite a bit of space for the goal itself. It was a really good finish from Cairney, obviously, before he got sent off. And, again, you look at these points here. I mean, he was unmarked, to be honest. I mean, Jonny should have been better defensive, closing him down for that goal. What's your take on that for you? And we're going to need you to unmute, Jay, from your end.
Yeah, probably. But, we're clutching at straws here. Because there were numerous chances, there were so many chances. And I think had he not been 6'7", maybe even Vicario couldn't have got to a couple of those. I think we really are clutching at straws. There's one thing that sort of pisses me off a little bit. This thing, we had a bench full of kids and, we got so many injuries. How many times when you look back through history, through adversity, managers who are up against it, riddled with injuries, they're forced to play a kid, and then all of a sudden,
they become a sensation.
Becomes a sensation. We've seen it at Newcastle with Miley. We've seen it at Man United. We've seen it so many times, and I just feel that there are times. Give them an opportunity. What is 10 minutes? I mentioned I'm a big fan of Callum Oluwesi at Spurs. I definitely think, he's obviously very young, but I definitely think Lancashire, with his build, he's built like an Olympic swimmer, that he could have done a trick. He could hold the ball up, give him a chance. And Jed Spence, throw them on, give them a chance. Are we going to win it? Do we believe that we are going to win games? And there wasn't any belief on the pitch, in the stands, that anything was going to happen. I think, had he put Spence on, had he put Lancashire on, Fans could have said, you know what? We had the injuries, but at least Ange thought, right, I'm going to throw the kitchen sink at it.
Gamble,
I'm going to give these kids an opportunity.
Roll the
and
dice.
We could have turned around and said, you know what? Fair dues.
Yeah.
You know, we have got injuries, but he's trying. But to see them sat on the bench and to see them, I mean, he came on with like 1.5 minutes to go. What is the point? What is the point? We could see the legs were gone. We could see the players who weren't doing it. And they're down to 10 men. You know, I was worried, to be honest with you, that the way things were going, even with the 10 men, there was a few times where I thought, oh my God, you know, how terrible will it be if they actually go down the other end and score? It wouldn't have been out of the realms of possibility that could have happened. I just think sometimes you've got to be brave. Yep. You know, I remember Gareth Bale being on the losing end 23 times when he came to the club. Couldn't get a win. And I think it was Esu Akoto got injured and he got forced to play him. And then the rest is history. I'm not saying, you know, he would have stayed on the bench or what have you. You know, look at Harry Kane. You know, would he have got a chance? You know, we talk about sending him out on another loan. Sometimes through adversity, you find a gem. And, you know, don't want to hear excuses, Ange, right? You put them on the bench for a reason. And if they're not any good, then don't put them on the bench. There's no point saying, well, here's a tour of the stadium. They've seen the stadium before. Okay. They played games before. Give them a taste. Give them a taste of 5 or 10 minutes. They're not going to harm the game. They're not going to lose the game. You know, Sonny couldn't hold the ball up. Lancashire could have. You know, it's after the horse is bolted. Yeah. I'm just saying, you know, I'm certainly not saying play these kids ahead of the established professionals. I'm just saying when we're in adversity, he's said twice now against Roma, and in this game tonight, he's got a bench full of kids who've got no experience. Give them some.
It's fair. Look, we are looking for the close on this show. Just on this point here, many again will see that instant towards the end there. Goal scorer Tom Cairney sent off after. I wanted to check for catching Kulusevski's Achilles. Now the referee was called over to the pitch side screen after that challenge from Cairney on Kulu. He tried to bring him down. I'm not sure it was a malicious, but he had to go really. It was high down the back of the Swede's calf, and there were lots of players shouting at each other. Leno sat on the floor. Madison G'd up the Spurs fans, and it was really bizarre. For those in the stadium who witnessed it, there seemed to be a real strange moment where suddenly we had a gathering of Fulham players around Marco Silva. I don't think I've ever seen that after a sending off. You had the whole pretty much team over with Silva, as there was a massive break in play that really disrupted any chance for Spurs to maybe get on the ascendancy, to go on and to win the game. And, you know, again, if you look at that final 5 minutes or so, I'd be lying if I said to you Spurs were throwing absolutely everything at them in terms of trying to win the game. You know, the subs, I'll be honest, I found it quite bewildering. Kulu replacing Werner. I mean, you could argue Kulu should have come on earlier. There's been that argument saying the reactive, not proactive subs again from Ange. And, you know, to bring Maddison off with 5 minutes to go, again, when you're chasing a winner, I've got to say I don't really get it. I've got to say that, I'll be honest with you. Archie Gray's midfield debut lasted just 10 minutes. So Gray came on. He then went off. He hobbled off and was replaced by Will Lancashire. And was asked after the game about Gray coming off. He said he got a bit of a knock, bit of a dead leg, so hopefully nothing too significant. And even Ryan Sessegnon got an appearance, got a warm reception as he came off of Fulham on his return to Spurs, unlike Arsenal boo boys on the day Alex Iwobi and Emil Smith-Rowe, as they came off to big boos. Look, we've got to look for the close on this show, guys. Going to start with Mitch, going to end on TJ. Mitch, I suppose this re-emphasises the point of how big the January transfer window can be for Tottenham, but even more of an emphasis is how big this next month is in store from Tottenham. What do you need to see in this next month, Mitch, to give you the confidence that our season is very much alive and kicking? Because I'll make the point Ange said, we are still, you know, seemingly in a position, because the league is so inconsistent right now. Spurs in that league table are on 20 points. They are only 3 points off the current top 4. Yes, they are 14 points off top spot, but it's a fairly congested table. It's really, really congested. You know, a couple of wins takes you right up to that top 4. Couple of defeats can send you really, as we know, plummeting downwards. What do we need to see, Mitch, for you in this next month for Tottenham leading into the January window, which I think we all know Spurs need to do business?
Well, obviously, I want to see wins. I want to see points. But no, I want to see intent, and I want to see desire, and I want to see motivation, and I want to see unity. I want to see a club where they know this season hasn't been perfect so far, but you can always reset after a game at the start of a new week. You can always sit there and say, look, we've got to be together on this. We're going through a rough patch. We're very inconsistent with our results. We've dropped some points that we shouldn't have done. We've got a lot of injuries at the moment, but at the end of the day, we do still have a lot of capable and good players available to us who are more than able to help us win games over the next month or so, get us through to that January. And then most importantly, I need to see intent in the January transfer market. In my opinion, the biggest game in the diary for December is that game against Manchester United on the 19th in the Cup. Because, you know, you win that and all of a sudden you're in the semi-final of a Cup competition and you're 2 games away.
Don't do it to me, Mitch. Don't do it
I
to
know,
me.
Ricky. I can see it. I can see it in your face. But that's the big game. I want to see intent, and I just want to see. I feel like we need a bit of momentum going into that. It's a busy period. We know that other teams are going to slip up. Other teams are going to have injuries. Other teams have injuries. Like you've just shown us, the table is still tight. We can go up or we can go down. And I want the boys and the manager to only be looking up, not looking behind us. And that starts with Thursday. You know, hopefully Dom Solanke is back, fit, ready to prove him. Well, doesn't need to prove himself, ready to play against his old team. I'm sure he'll want to. I'm sure he'll want to score against them as much as he might, you know, have affection for them. Romero closing in on coming back. Brilliant. That's 2 key players ready to come back into the squad, hopefully. And you know, there's some big games. There's some big games coming up, and we seem to raise our games for the tougher fixtures at the moment. So maybe, who knows? Maybe that will be a positive for us. Maybe Chelsea will rock up on Sunday, and we'll give them a real good game. To be fair to them, they've been excellent so far this season. So it's obviously not going to be easy, but you know, even after watching what I've watched today, I still feel like we can beat them. I always feel like we can beat any team we're playing against. It's just what Tottenham turns up. And that's what I want to see. I want to see the good version of Tottenham more often in these games. That's one of the most important things for me.
Mitch, you're a superstar. Thank you for your therapy. Where can people book an appointment with you? Where can they find you?
Thank you. I might need to book myself in for another appointment after this.
Oh, God, not another one. We've done 2 hours here.
Yeah, but no, I'm just over on the usual platforms, YouTube as well, just at Mitch_Fretton. Yeah, doing my stuff over there. So, yeah, any love on the YouTube in particular would be great. But it's been excellent to be on. Great therapy session, as you mentioned. TJ, Jonny as well. It's been brilliant. And, yeah, we are going to see 2 wins next week. It's going to be brilliant. I can't wait.
Bless you. Listen, we look forward to more. We do. I look more wins. Got to say, just to be very, very clear, more wins, not more like this. Just to be very clear, I was going to a bit of a David Brent gig there. I thought, leave that. Better leave that. We'll cut the. Do more like this. Do more shows like this. Bloody hope not. Jay, thank you so much. Poor Jay's back on Thursday with us. God, what we've got to come. Everyone's relationships are being tested to the max right now. We'll just say on this show. Jay, what do you need to see for you? Again, I always say, you know, you are someone that many do say tells it as it is. What do you need to see in this next month for you? Big month ahead of the January transfer window, because really we can't affect things until January. And again, I will make that point with January. I think many are expecting Spurs to go out and splash the cash. I would love to say that. I would love to see that. I'm not sure whether they'll get the caliber of players that we would love to see come in. But I know, again, I'll make that point. We're getting lots of lovely comments coming through. These shows are difficult to do when it's like this. We want to be here talking all things positive, talking all things, you know, great about Spurs. You know, I said to TJ before we started, it might be one of those shows. It's hard. It is hard. What do you say, and what do you feel for you, Jay, at the moment, going into this big month where we've got 11 games in 38 days? Crazy period.
Well, listen, look, as I've said before, Spurs right now playing snakes and ladders football. You know, we climb up the ladder and then we hit a snake, slide all the way back down again. And I think we've got more of that coming. we do better against teams that like to come and attack us. We were talking before about a destroyer in the middle of the park. Chelsea have gone out and bought 3. They've got Caicedo, they've got Lavia, and they've got Enzo Fernandez. They've got 3 quality 6s in the middle of the park. And, we're nowhere near that level. I think it's going to be a tough ask against Chelsea next week. But I live in hope that, if they come and try to play expansive football, which I believe they will, we will have our best chance. But I expect more of the same. And in the January transfer window, last January, we were the biggest spenders in the January transfer window. It would be great to replicate that. But let's be honest, it's not the numbers, it's the quality.
Absolutely. Yep.
I think we started last summer. When the summer window finished, I said, same old Spurs. We've closed the window knowing that any injury at left back or at left centre back, we're going to be in trouble. But the greatest worry for me would be our goalkeeper, because football is not how it used to be. And goalkeepers now playing the ball out from the back are in contact with strikers a lot more than they ever were. And if you've only got to look at the injuries of Alisson, Johnson, Ramsdale, you can go through. There's so many goalkeeper injuries right now. And this thing that you can't have a top goalkeeper as a backup is nonsense. Because right now, the way it is, if they played the Europa League, that's a guaranteed 8 games. And, you're looking at maybe 3 cup games. So you're looking at 11 games minimum. That's if your other top goalkeeper doesn't get injured throughout the entirety of the season. So I'm not a believer in that. I'm a believer in competition in all places. So I'm hopeful that we get a top keeper back up. No offence, Fraser, you've been fantastic. I take it all back, everything I've said so far. We need backup on the left side. I just think we have to. I can take losing a game of football.
Yep.
I'm a lifelong Spurs fan. I've experienced it many times before. But for me, it's the manner of the defeat. If I feel that our team gave everything, I can walk away said, you know what, we did our best,
Absolutely.
but we were second best. But we can see they left everything on the pitch. I don't believe that anyone left anything like everything on that pitch today. And that's why I came away quite angry, walking down the high street. And like Mitch said, I thought, I'll leave my after reports until I get home like I normally do. But no, I did it straight as I was walking out the stadium. I live in hope that we can find some consistency, because I think that's all we want. And
of course.
As you quite rightly say, it's very tight right now. And, put 2 or 3 wins together and suddenly it's looking very different. Can we do it? That's the great question. But thank you for having me on.
Jay, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Get back now to working on Thursday with the therapy again.
Yeah, no, I'm working on the positivity.
We're just wheeling him out now. We're wheeling him out. One man that I've got to say, I think I've wheeled him out, bless his heart, TJ, who right now he's frozen on our screen, but I know he's there. He's come back, thank God. He's come back. It was a message from God. They brought him back to life for me. Poor TJ has been with me, bless him, the last 6, 7, 8 weeks. I can tell you, TJ's got Thursday off. Don't be so gutted. He's got Thursday off. We're letting him have Thursday off, but he's back for Chelsea.
Oh, joy. Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Listen,
can I just say, TJ, mate,
thanks for having me again, mate.
To let you close, mate.
Great panel.
Oh, mate, listen, to let you close on this point, I've got to ask you, mate, before you come in there, I think I've got a slight delay there, that it's really important we mention this point, that we are clear on this. We know we've got 6 starters out. We know we've got 8 players missing overall. We know it's fatigue time right now. We know we've got 11 games in 38 days. We know we've, been unbeaten, in terms of City, in terms of Roma, and the third game on the bounce, we're unbeaten. But I think it's really important that all what everybody wants to see is that level of consistency, not actually in terms of results, can I just say, just in terms of performances. I think that is what everybody wants to see more than anything right now.
Yeah.
close us on that, TJ, because like I say, you've been amazing, mate. You've been with us here consistently the last few weeks, and you've had to see him go for it all. And can I say, you've been up at R5 this morning watching that. You know, I was up at 6 with the Christmas tree, but you was up at R5.
The Christmas tree is going up today as well. But yeah, man, listen, the boys have articulated it so perfectly, as of you, Rick, as of our viewers and our listeners, and of course our thanks to them as ever for supporting this fantastic show, which is very special to all of us. What I would like to see, so here's one thing that I think that we can bring, like consistency. Of course, we all want that. We want performances. Let's bring energy. Let's do that, you know, again, because for me, that's a mental decision that you make in the dressing room, whether you've got Coach Taylor from Friday Night Lights giving the speech or Ange Postecoglou giving the speech. And again, just to hark back to what the players say about Ange, many of them say, no one has ever motivated me better or more than Ange. There was a lovely Joe Hart, you know, did an interview saying, oh, when Ange, he unlocked so many things for me. So again, I'm a huge fan of Ange's. I think he's a very articulate, very intelligent gentleman. And I'm sure behind the scenes and in the dressing room and stuff like that, like the things that he has to say, I think are enormously impactful. Yes, I would like to see a bit more energy from him on the sideline. And again, just in his demeanor, I think that would help us fans and help a lot of the players. But I don't doubt that what he's doing behind the scenes is really working on the players. So can we make a commitment, Tottenham Hotspur Club, to bringing as much energy as we possibly can? I know that we're tired and I know that we're suffering from injuries and all that kind of thing. So can we just focus on that? Can we focus on being a team that's hard to beat? And to Mitch's point, which was really valid, right? If Ange ball is all out attack football, then attack. And if we have an advantage, like today when we went down to 10, we should have gone to 4-4-2. You know, like just really boss that midfield. Don't let them out. Just siege mentality, wave after wave after wave after wave. So that's what I'd really like to see, man. Give us a couple of games on the bounce. Let's get some joy back surrounding the club. Let's get some energy back in the stadium. I do feel for you guys when you schlep your asses down to the Seven Sisters and you're sitting in the rain. And, you know, my best friend, my oldest friend, Steve Abraham, I'll give him a big shout out, was there with his daughter today, like, you know, in the rain, and what a tepid performance in horrific conditions. So let's bring some joy and some energy, hopefully some consistency. I want to big up the Tampa Supporters Club as well. I had my mate Joseph messaging me today saying, give us a big up, TJ. We love the last word on Spurs. Big up to you, brother. Big up to the panel. December, guys, rock and roll time. Thanks for having me on the show. I'll see you next time.
Ricky, before we go, can I
Jay.
just ask anyone who's out there, I used to buy years ago, the kit guy I used to get a bag, plastic bag full of kit. And I was going through a whole load of stuff and I dug out this top. Okay? I think it's from about 1993. It's Umbro. And in the back, it's still got the player's initial in there with a big Y in white with the J in there. So if anyone knows when this kit, Umbro kit might be, I think it's about 1993 with a big Y with a J in it, who that could possibly be, I'd love to know. See, Umbro, 1993 potentially, as I said, with a big Y in fabric, in white, with the J in the middle. Any clues? I'd love to hear you. I'd love to hear you.
Well, listen, you can hit Jonny up on X there, Jonny H3232, Insta Let's Talk Tottenham 882, or drop it in the comments. We'll let Jonny know. That is the dying question we all need to know after that game. Please, what is that J in Jonny's top? Guys, I want to say a massive thank you. Look, again, bless you for all the love, all the support as always for the show. You know, like I say, we'll always be here for our sins to try and give you some balance, some perspective, some therapy, they call it. To our therapists, to the wonderful Jonny, Hamme, he tells us as it is, to the brilliant Mitch Fretton, from the superb TJ Ramini. We have been the last word on Spurs. We are your multi-award winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast. We'll be back for more, even if some of the players aren't. As always, please keep safe, keep well, and as always, come and use Spurs.